Okay, guys. Hi, Tony Sweet here. I'm sorry it took so long to get back to you, but it's been busy and etc. So we're home for the holidays. Hope your holidays are going well so far. Um, and I'd like to get to these images now while they're still somewhat fresh in my head. So let's start with this is a raw file that we're looking at here. Uh, Composition's good. I like the balance, how it leads. I like how this is this. There's no space in here, which is good because it balances these alternating tonalities here, which is very good, strong composition. The only thing, and also, I like the balance bottom left, bottom right. These balance the frame out very nicely. There's enough cloud detail to work really well, and good separation here. So that's the big picture on this image. Now, the thing that does bother me a bit, and I'm going to say, okay, open this in Photoshop. Right now, our processing in RAW, my basic RAW process is highlights down and then shadows up. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. Watch your histogram up here. And then maybe contrast, maybe not. It's a very flat day, so I don't want to make it too crazy. Right about where it was is fine. I'll leave my whites. See, whites will make it a little bit hotter. It's not bad. And blacks will bring it down more. I tend to leave the dark parts alone. I tend to not do a lot in black and white, these two controls in RAW. But white can really give it a little extra pop. But again, very small increments. And always under process rather than over process if you have a choice. In clarity, I tend to bring these in at about 4 or 5, just kind of a nice pre-sharpening setting. 6 is fine. And leave the color alone. So let's open in Photoshop. Let's see what we have here. Now, the one thing that bothers me about this is the, let me enlarge it a bit. Just a little bit. Okay, I don't want to do it too much because it's a JPEG. But right here, these pilings being merged is kind of an issue for me. It kind of pulls your eye down there, merged with the horizon. So I would try to, on a TIFF image, not on something this small, but on your big image, I would grab the lasso tool, for example, and I would make it quite a bit larger. Although now it looks a bit pixelated now. But I will just select right in here, and I will do Shift Delete, and then make sure it says Content Aware, then hit OK. Okay, not bad. Command D for deselect. It's a little funny. You can go in later and fix the edges up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing everything right now, but you can go in at a higher magnification on a TIFF image and fix those edges up quite easily. And let's do one more here. Coming down into the pier. And rather than using a keystroke, this maneuver resides in Edit, I believe Fill, right? And then if you have a selection, it'll come up Content Aware. If your selection drops off or goes away, you'll get something like this maybe. You don't want that. You want to go to Content Aware if you have a selection, and then hit OK, and then see what it gives you. It's close enough. This can all be doctored up quite easily in software. We'll do one at a time. And again, Shift, Delete, Return. And that's that one. Now, you can move this over if you want. You can move the selection. And it covers enough of that to actually be fine. Rather than reselecting it, rather than reselecting everything all the time. Now, click off the selection or hit Command D. I'll click off. See, and it goes away. To get back to full frame, the command is, I believe it's a Command 0. Brings you, no matter what your magnification is, brings you back down to full screen. So, I'm pretty much good with this. Everything else is fine. You don't want to get too crazy with contrast and detail. This could be like a really heavy HDR sky, but I think this works really well for me. And that's pretty much... You can also texturize anything. We'll get into that later. But right now, I think this is a good start. Good, strong composition. Good for if you want doing a texture also on top of that, or not. Or go to black and white. We may come back to this for that later. Let's go into here. Another one of the bridge. Nice shot of the bridge. My pet peeve issue with this kind of image is when whites go black. Unless it's like a major storm out in Ohio somewhere. Clouds don't get black that often. So I would try to address these dark clouds right here. Okay, one way to do that would be to drag your background layer down into here, the page icon. Sorry, get rid of that. My mistake. Let's try it again. Bring the background into the page icon, and that'll give you a duplicate. Now, that way we'll keep our prime image good, and then our duplicate will be, we can try stuff. If we don't like it, pitch it, and we'll still keep our original image in a pristine shape. So now we have our selection. We have our layer. And I want to do filter, camera raw filter. If you have not used this, you may want to start. You can access all the camera raw controls anytime you want during your process. And it shows up as a layer, not an adjustment layer, but a pixel layer, which means that's going to double your file size each time. So, I'm sorry, double your file size each time. Didn't mean to let that go by so easily. So here we are. Histogram's not bad. The blacks are blocked up. Why don't we say shadows just a little bit and open that. You see, now it's getting very grainy. See, that's how we know that it may be a couple of things. Super high ISO. You may have pre-processed this already, but this is way too grainy. Check your histogram when you shoot it. Normally, this grain gets really crazy when you try to brighten up grain on a shot that was underexposed initially. This is why you want to check your histogram and make sure nothing is completely blocked up or completely blown out, which means basically not to peak on the left or right side of your histogram. Now, peaking on the left side is a little more forgivable because some things should be black, but maybe not in this case. But your highlights should always be down inside of your histogram line right here. So we can't do anything with this. As you can see, the shot was underexposed initially. So because as you can see here, even though I brought the shadows all the way up, it's still in the dark end. That spike there is pitch black. And that's pretty much up here, which we can do nothing about. So we're going to pull this back to normal. And maybe just a little bit, but just a shade. So now we can say, if we say OK, we'll be able to see the before and after here. Now, okay, here, what I want to do is make these clouds a little bit less black. But again, yeah, a little bit of a difference, but it's still kind of crazy up in here. But the point is, when you take these high contrast images, take at least one with all the highlights in and at least one with all the shadows in, because you may want to you may need to blend certain aspects of that image together with other versions of it. Like this is a case in point right here. So that's pretty much, it's got to be fine the way it is. Even if I try this, it still looks pixelated up here. So we're going to just take this away. Now you can mask it. We'll get into that later without getting too crazy with this stuff. But in general, getting it right in the camera, histogram-wise, is really a really good first step that will solve a lot of your processing issues. And then we'll go over to here. That's done. We'll let that go for now. Okay, we'll come back to that later, maybe. Okay, shot on a different day, obviously. So I think it was. I think this is, I can tell whose it is, but really strong composition. Unless the exposure is like 8 minutes or more, that water we had won't smooth out like this. So it may be on a different day, which is cheating, whoever this is. Not really. This is outstanding. What bothers me just a bit, if you look close, is a small little halo around here. And just not too much here, but you can see a little edging. But you can see it here for sure. If you make that on a large print, I promise you, after about a week, that's all you'll see are the imperfections. That's why you want to take a print you're thinking of making and make a print and hang it up for about a month or at least a couple of weeks and look at it and see if anything becomes distracting in the image. Little halo here, see, real slight. Looks like processing, but that can be fixed. Just reprocess it. The reflection's outstanding. The exposure is like excellent. One of my pet peeves are these kind of deals here. Where the line is what's the word I want? Converging because of a wide angle or wide angle zoom. More wide angle zoom. As you point the camera up, you get that keystoning, which is that bending in at the edges. You get more of that with wide angle zooms than with fixed wide angle lenses. Let's select all this. Let's say select all, Command A, and then we'll go into crop. Go to perspective crop. Now, if you pick crop, it'll select the crop for you. There's the crop. But if I go to perspective crop, which is what I want, it'll get rid of those selection lines. And you got to draw them yourself. Now hold down the shift key, and that will constrain this movement to right along that axis. See it? And we want to come right about to here. See where it's almost square right now? Maybe just a little more to get it like perfect or close. Let's just say, okay, watch it spread out. Horizon line still straight. All this spacing is even. This works better for me. Before, after. It's a lot more grounded when you straighten those edges out. Aside from that, really good processing, good composition, good everything. So I have a little haloing going on right here. I would probably want to reprocess that, and whatever I did, try to tone down. Now, bear in mind that a JPEG may make these imperfections more prominent. But look at your RAW file and see if you have these halos. If you don't have them when you process, keep them that way. Adding a lot of contrast or structure will bring out edges like that, and it's just they're unacceptable. We'll close that down. All right, we'll keep another version, really? Okay, let's go over here. There we go. We have our Sheldon Church. I love this composition. What bothers me a bit is if you look at your histogram, the shadows are good. The highlights are blown out right in here and right in here, and small little specks. On your camera, if your blinkies were turned on, you would see little red highlights all through where it's blown out. What you want to do next is watch your histogram. That's critical. A little blown out down here. You can shoot infrared in this kind of light, but you need to expose for it. You can also shoot infrared HDR if one exposure does not get everything in there. Shoot HDR, why not? It'll work here. That's the major issue. And the sky's kind of, I'm not sure if that's right or not. It might be a thin cloud and then a dark sky, but whatever it is. That's the main problem is the blown out highlights here. Compositionally, I may want to, no, this is good. This is good. You see where it's keystoning here again? So we can try to, you don't need to fix that every time. Doesn't bother me as much here as in the previous image. So I would keep the composition as is, but I will definitely consider a multiple image approach, like a exposure, and then just keep exposing for your histogram, getting darker and darker until these come in, which is right here. But aside from that, yeah, it's good composition. We'll close this down. Okay. Notice the trees aren't quite straight. Now, the way that I do this is like I'll kind of square up by eyeball with a little help. We go to our prime crop tool right here. See, now it builds the border around the image. But if I pull the cursor outside of that window, it becomes a double-headed arrow. See it down here? Then when you touch, it gives you a grid. Then you can move this laterally, around like this, and affect your crop that way. Make sure the trees are straight. They appear to be. And then hit return. And that's how I like to crop. Pardon me. So, I like what you did to this. Some kind of simplicity or some kind of topaz It's not quite straight yet, is it? Let's bring the arrow in here, or the border, or the ruler. No, it is straight. You see it? Okay, just making sure. I like the way you did. It's very subtle what you did on that. Yeah, I kind of like the effect a lot. I like the lightness of it. I wouldn't really change anything here. I think this works extremely well. I like how it fades in from the left. It's got a very ethereal, very light feeling. I really don't like effects that are overdone, except in very specific cases, you know. But this is very good. Now you can actually take this shot, even though it's textured once, and retexture it. You know, let's grab a flypaper texture here. Oh, something subtle. See what this does. Okay, you see the warm feel to this all of a sudden. Let me show you. And that's while doing nothing. Look, before and after. See a little warm tint, which I like a whole lot. We're in multiply mode right now. We can also set it back to soft light. I tend to only use soft light, overlay, and multiply on these. But it doesn't hurt to go through all of them. This is a bit dark. I can adjust the opacity of the texture, or if I want that texture at that opacity, if I pull it back, you see it gets thinner. So if I want that feel to it, I've got to go in and create a claw layer, which is Command Option Shift E on a Mac. All right, there it is. There's our claw layer. That is actually this background and the paper texture are flattened now and put on this layer. Now, on top of this layer, now what happens is if I do something here that I don't like, I can pitch this and nothing's changed. So I call this more of an experimental layer. I'm not sure what the command is on PC, sorry, but on Mac it's Option, Command, Shift, letter E. On PC it might be Control, Option, Command, or Shift, Control, Option. You have to play around with that in PC land. But it's in that area of the keyboard, and it gives you what's called Layer 1. What I'll do here is I'll go to a curve, a levels, go to a level. And you see there's room to make it brighter. So I'll bring this up. There we go. Now it maintains the warm quality. See it? Watch. That's your original, which is not bad. I like it. Then we dropped on a little warmer, a little denser texture. Real patchy, warm color throughout it. You know, so it's up to you what you want to do. But you can also pull the opacity back on this layer, like just part of it. A little brighter, something like that. But anyway, that gives you the ability to add another texture if you want, and then pull the opacity back, or just get rid of it. And back where you started. So again, it gives you the option to keep these or pitch it. That's what the claw does. It allows you to flatten everything below it, then work on one layer. Because if you're like me at all, too many layers, it gets confusing. So I like flattening, but not really. All this layer 1 does is flattens every layer below it onto this layer, maintaining all these separate layers however far down it goes. I hope that makes sense. Pardon me. Don't forget, now when you have your levels, you can also adjust your midtones. A very underused part of this box here. Midtones are great. So maybe around here. That we maintain the ethereal feel of the image and still keep all that texture in here. Hope that makes sense. Okay, we're going to go on. Okay, nice idea. I like the shallow depth of field a lot. You can read the entire name, which is excellent. But it appears that you're shooting like wide open, or pretty much, because I mean, I know the name's important, but also when you start noticing that these aren't quite sharp, it kind of pulls your attention away from the name. You may need 3 shots here to say who this is. No. But you may need 3 shots, 1 for the rope, and then 1 for the name like this, and then focusing on the anchor. So you can like brush in the rope, brush in the anchor, and still maintain the name, because these are very large elements in the picture that kind of pull your eye away from the subject, which appears to be, you intended to be the name, is the subject. But the out of focusedness around it is a distraction. It's also kind of dark in here. You may want to lighten that up. And again, that could be done. Do a duplicate first, and then go to filter. You can't apply a filter to a background layer. So you create a layer, and then go into camera raw. And there, you can go in and bring your shadows up, for example. See it? Shadows up a notch. Now you're also bringing them up in the trees, which is not that big a deal. See, that way, if this, and the rope were sharp, anchor, text, and rope, and everything else slightly out like this, especially the background, that'd be a little more easier to view, because right now I'm getting pulled all over the place. Even though the flying cloud is sharp, the rope and the anchor are close enough to be kind of a distraction. So there's the anchor that we brought in. A little bit hotter, a little darker. See, and then I brought in like everything. But we can put a mask on, and then hit B for brush, and then paint all these back in. See it right here? A little smaller brush, left bracket. Then we're going to bring in all this background like before. So the anchor's still bright. You see it? You see the mask? What I just painted over? So I left everything here alone and just brushed in the original sky or clouds and the original tree line. You see it? I want to bring that back a notch. See it? We're bringing it in here. There you go. That's a little better because it did brighten up the anchor. And I like the idea a lot. And this will probably print very well on some kind of like absorption paper, like some kind of rag, where the sharpness is not as critical. And it's more about the overall feel of the image. And probably work being printed on something like that. So we'll move on here. We'll keep seeing that every time, sorry. Okay, I know this is Duke's. Gotta bring it back. Oh, darn it. Come on. I'll bring it back a little bit. Okay. Here we go. All right, just a little larger if we can. Let me see. Okay, somewhere in here. All right, I really love this composition a lot. And I never thought of shooting back like this, but next time I'll shoot back like this. Really good clouds. Just tremendous idea. Good separation with the dry and wet sand. Good idea cropping out the busy part of the scene. I like how the tree's chopped off at the edge. It kind of leads in, kind of points into the picture space. Very nice composition here. All that I could say, let's just try something. What if I say this, and then if I do duplicate the original. So we save that, and then we'll go into a little maneuver I like. It's filter, I keep it under sharpen, but under unsharp mask, if you set your amount to 20, radius 50, threshold 0, then as you can see, it's a little more detail. Here, see it? Look. Before and after. If you do that on a larger file, you'll see the edges come in. I mean, JPEGs aren't really sharp to do like this, but on a larger image, the last thing I do on a black and white image is to go in to to filter and sharpen and then unsharp mask. And those settings are, again, just 2050. We call this the 2050 maneuver in the business. It's one way to pop out some contrast, pardon me, at the very end of your image process. I do it just once, of course, not twice, but I do it twice on occasion. That's one way to finish up a black and white process, but I like this composition a lot. And we'll let you do that. Oh, how nice. That's got a very nice abstract feel to it. Very painterly, nice use of edges. Just, I like the soft background. I like the separation of the color from the background. It's not real, which I actually like about it. I'm not married to reality. I kind of like getting off the beaten path a little bit. This is tremendous. So all the color is like popping out in most cases and gives it a three-dimensional feel. So really nice nice idea creating this this three-dimensional kind of a look where the leaves are all like separated kind of in front of the background. I like the border also very much, very artistic, very painterly type border. It's a very nice shot, good composition, really good job of seeing something like that. I wouldn't change a whole lot. Oh yeah, I really like this shot a lot. I hope the birds are real here. I think they are. But what a nice composition. Jeez. I would probably crop this down just a hair. You don't need all the space. Your subject matter is somewhere in here. We don't need all this space, and we don't need all of this space. Maybe something like this. Since the birds are flying this way from right to left, right? So we'll say okay. Now this makes a bit more sense to me. Let's go back. See all that extra space? You don't need all this because you want to draw attention to the birds, you know. Now, one thing that I like to do, should have did a layer first here, sorry. But on something like this, I would again go to Camera Raw, Filter first, see if I can pull the highlights down. Okay, a little more detail. Now, oh, I see, you have some effect going on here. Or it's just a JPEG artifact. Let's put this back up again. Put that where it was. But with your raw file, I would consider toning down the highlights a bit in Camera Raw and increasing contrast a bit. There you go. Just darkening those supports. Yeah, really nice shot. The bridge line cuts the frame roughly in a third to a quarter, which is fine. And all the negative space is managed. Nothing's too bizarre. And your eye goes right to the birds and follows them out of the frame. So, excuse me. Really nice idea. This is an example of like taking your big picture first and then honing in on smaller parts of the scene. This is an outstanding extracted image. And you can do that, whoever you are. Okay. The first thing that sticks out here to me is this. This has to go away. So I'm circling it with the lasso tool, hitting Shift Delete, and then hitting OK. Oh, it left something. Let's do it again. And we'll say Shift Delete and OK. Now, what will happen on very tight selections like that you'll need to go in and let's go back. Let me just show you. This is where we started. Now, what I will do in this case will be probably grab the clone tool, a little smaller, hit the bracket, make it 100% opacity, 100% flow rate, and then just start cloning right down the line. See it? Until about here. And now we're good to go. So bring this back down a bit. I like the slight vignetting on this a lot. I like the repetition, where this graphic kind of equals this graphic. Hope that was, if it's not intentional, say that it was anyway. There's a really nice echoing theme with these two subjects. I'm not sure I'm not going to screw your vignette up, but in general, this can be a little tighter here. And why don't we say, bring this in and up. We don't need all this foreground, do we? A little tighter composition, a little more in here, and we'll say okay. Now, we have that as opposed to that. Okay, so this is not bad. This is a viable option. Another option to me would be a little tighter composition. Neither's better than the other one. And visual distractions, even though that's real, I don't like it. Doesn't look good. And we'll do the what's this tool called again? Spot healing brush tool. And we'll just come in and very gently go over this area. Get the white wave. All right, grab the clone tool, and then we'll hold down Option, and then we'll just clone. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. Here. Am I in the right? Oh, I'm still in background. Sorry. My mistake. Background, copy. Okay. Now we can go in with the, these are mistakes that I make and that I'm certain you make more times than I care to remember. So we'll clone this white line right here. We'll just drag it right across. There we go. Boom, we're done. Just like that. Just fill in that space. And now we're good to go. Hope this makes sense. Just trying to tighten up your composition. That's all. So we'll go into here. We don't need to save that. Let's go over here. Okay, I really, really missed an opportunity to get this shot. I love this composition a lot. And when I come back there in January, I will revisit this place. Just tremendous composition. Tom Sweeney, yeah, hi Tom. Yeah, just tremendous. The only thing that bothers me slightly, good job maintaining highlights in the sky here. Very well done. I like how you included this whole thing here. Of course, catching birds are always good in these kind of shots. I don't think I like this back part here. So I'll just say the quick selection tool again. Is that what that is? Spot healing brush tool, sorry. And very small brush. And then we'll just come in and try to get this down a bit. Let's undo it and do it again. It's better doing it in small increments. Just tighten it up. There we go. Good. Now that looks better to me, having that one thing out of it. God darn it. Or we could just grab the crop tool and do it this way. Yeah, hit return. There we go. See this white thing right here? These things drive me nuts. Let's grab the crop tool again and see if we can get right beyond that white hot spot there. I think it'll still be good. Okay, return. There we go. Much better. I like how you included the boxes, crates, whatever they are. I'm not sure I like this foreground down here. We don't need all that, do we, Tom? I'm going to get rid of your name, sorry. Let me just see if we can get that out so we can work here a little bit. Okay, good enough. Now, I'll go to crop and then try to get rid of those green things down there. We don't need this much foreground. This is actually good right here. Okay. It's a good shot, man. I like the feel of it. Just tremendous. Yeah, outstanding composition. A couple little tweaks. So we're going to move on from here. And back to our bridge again, our perennial bridge. Okay, what I like about it is the composition. What bothers me a bit is it's a little overdone. Whatever you did, a little overdone here. You see, there's almost a... You see this halo down here on that bottom ledge? So whatever you did, it's pretty strong processing maneuvers that left a residue, very unnatural looking scene. Unnatural looking because it looks like the trees are cut out almost. You see where it's kind of dense here at the edge? See, right here? Doesn't quite look right. So I suspect that this may be an HDR, or that you did some very heavy highlight shadow stuff, whatever. That's what creates this kind of a look. And it's also a bit dark. Why don't we just start with doing a level, and we'll see just a little bit of space. There's not a whole lot. After we do our highlights, we go to our midtones. All right, that's kind of better, but the color is off in the sky. But you don't see that dark corner. But what if we say black and white at this point? So we actually made the whole thing brighter. So now we'll say, just pick any of the programs. You can't put a layer on an adjustment layer. So we'll do a claw. Command, Option, Shift, letter E. Now, that just takes these two bottom layers, puts them together on this layer. Okay, so if I turn these off, you see we're still here. Turn it off, you have nothing. So this is pretty much these two levels flatten, these two layers flatten to this. That's all that is. Now, at this point we can say, okay, let's go to, doesn't matter what you pick. We can go into anything. Tonality Pro. It's a really good program from McFun. We could do that. Yeah. It's not a bad black and white right out of the box now, is it? I think this works much, much better. Even though I'm biased toward black and white, I believe this image looks better. I think it's a quantum leap from the original, which all we needed to do was to brighten it kind of dramatically and just take it into a black and white program. So we'll just say OK. We'll just apply that. If the preset looks good, there's no reason to change it. And to me, if I say we have this and this, there's no comparison. If you want to blend the two at this point, then you would say opacity. The color is wrong on this. I will definitely make it a black and white, because it does work very well in the black and white format. A couple little hot spots that can go away. Let's just do that. Let's go to a claw layer, because we cannot do an adjustment layer on an adjustment layer. So now we'll just say at this point, we'll grab the lasso tool and just lasso this guy right here, and then do Shift Delete and then return. That takes care of that. So to me, this actually worked a bit better. Now don't forget that our last move, again, one more claw move. So we're going to do one more thing here. We're going to filter, sharpen. Remember this? Unsharp mask. Here's our 2050. I've got my sharpening set, unsharp mask set to 2050. It's not how I sharpen every image. When I want to do serious sharpening, I'll go to high pass or smart sharpen, something like that. But for general, the last move in a black and white process is this. And we'll say OK. And now if we say before and after, much more dramatic. And that's what I would do here, Tom. I think it's Tom. I'm not sure. But a really good composition, man. You may want to get about maybe a couple of feet lower so you can have this limb above the horizon. See where it's merged right here? You don't want that. You want that higher so the city is like framed under it. But that's not a deal breaker. It'd be a little more visually lucid if you separated those elements there. And you can do that. Okay. Very, very busy subject. I really like, it is kind of busy, But for some reason, it kind of works for me. I'm not sure why. I think because it's contrasty. The foreground tree is bright and it's separated from the darker background, so it separates the elements, which I like a lot. Yeah, I think it's a busy scene, but it works. You may want to watch out with contrast and structure, because as you can see, right, that white outline, you want to avoid that outline. Got a lot of them in here, especially in here, here. On the darker side, you're okay. But where the sun is just striking right on the subject, you can add contrast and structure to bring out a little too much. So I would process keeping your eye on this side of the image and make sure that does not occur. But all in all, nice composition. I like the basic feel of this. I like how you have the lines shooting way out of the frame. That's the only way this kind of shot will work, or things are jutting out of the frame. Very tough composition, good idea, and very well done on this. Okay. Yeah. Now the blues are a bit funny. That could be my color space, your color space. I don't even know what the problem is. The blues are a little bit funny here. One way to address that would be to say, let's go into an adjustment layer. Always adjustment layers, and we'll say, don't tell me, hue saturation. We can do that and say OK. Now this comes out in the master selection. When the master is selected, you have no eyedroppers because everything's adjusted globally. If you pick any color at all, there's no greens in here, doesn't matter. Any color at all will activate the eyedroppers. So I want to tone down the blues. So I'm going to select the mid-tone eyedropper and select the blues right here. Now see what it does? It changes. As soon as you eyedropper on that color, no matter what you select here, I repeat, no matter what you select initially, when you have an eyedropper and click on a color, that'll put that bar where your tonality is. Now if I want to say saturation, a little less, something like this, a little darker maybe, and just play around. Maybe change the hue a little bit, something like that, a little darker, still wasn't quite right. That's a tough one. But, so before and after. Yeah, we brought it back a little bit. So whatever you did initially, this is a good composition, by the way. This is why you want to get down low. And low means laying on your stomach almost sometimes to get those reflect. The lower you are, the more pronounced the reflections are. Because you're going to get down low. You pick up. This is not visible standing up. It's visible. The lower you get, the more water you see and the more reflection gets picked up. Now I know getting down low is not a picnic as it used to be, but you have to get down here to get this shot. Now the cameras have the articulated mirrors or the articulated screens in the back. You can put the camera down low and you can stay up higher, which is a nice benefit. But that's where you've got to be for this to happen. So really good job on this. Really excellent composition. I will try this in black and white also if I were the maker. My basic black and white process, just to give it to you so you have it, I gave it just so you can see it. We begin with background. It's all done in adjustment layers. This is my process to an extent almost all the time with black and white and in infrared. So layer, adjustment layer, gradient map. That gives you a nice medium to high contrast black and white. And what you'll see here is your imperfections. You see where it's dark around here, there's kind of like where it's kind of dark in the middle here. That could be part of how you process the image. It's not a deal breaker, and it's not that. You see it in here. You see where it drops off? See where it's brighter, then darker in here. So I'm not sure what you did. But you may want to go back and reprocess this without doing your previous maneuver. So, and we do want to click on the one that says black and white. not foreground, background. Because if you do that, if you change any of these colors, it'll change that. You'll want to say black and white and say OK. That's our black and white shot. Now, the next thing would be click on background. In other words, click down one layer and then go to layer, adjustment layer, and then black and white. And just hit OK. Then we have our sliders. Just play around and see what you like. Now, this is my process, not yours. I like how it, I like it somewhere in here. I think it's more the side light coming in. And a lot of these things just don't work. You'll normally find, there we go. Now this is kind of interesting, but you see where it gets all weird around the edges? Even if that was a TIFF, you would see weird stuff going on at the edges. So we'll put this back. Right in the middle there. And then our blue, you get more of the same. You can pull that back just a notch. Very little. Whenever you bring down a background against a dark foreground, you will get edging. Watch, watch, watch. See it? Little edges right in here. Really not good. And you don't need all this anyway. The image is fine pretty much where we had it. And then magenta doesn't work on this image. I think we're pretty good here. Now if I say, now we say, click back to gradient map. Don't forget, gradient map first, and then click back a layer, and then do black and white, and then click on gradient map, and then continue on. Layer, adjustment layer, levels. This may be dead on. It's dead on. So we just let that go. But let's play around and see what's up. A little brighter ain't bad. I kind of like it about there. That's why it pays to go and play with your midtones. And then we'll go on top of levels and we'll do a curve adjustment layer. And curves. And we'll say OK. And now the presets are really good here, you know. So why don't we say start with medium contrast. A little heavy. So then I'll go back to linear contrast. Just a little taste. So let's have a look at before and after. Also at the very bottom of this properties box is an arrow that points like in a semicircle. Not this one. I'm sorry, it's the eyeball. It is that one. The one in the middle resets it back to 0 like you didn't do anything. We want to just see what it does before and after. So we're here. I like it better with. And that's our final deal. So if you hold down Option or Alt and click on your very bottom layer, you have before, that's the original, and then we have, oops, sorry, after. So again, before, I'm sorry, let's do it again. We're going to click them all in, and then we'll hold down Option or Alt, click on the bottom layer, before, then click on it again to be after. Now, these layers are still there, so if you want to say opacity 50%, oh, it doesn't matter. We're in black and white right now, forget what I just said. And I kind of like this. This kind of works for me. It's your picture, but that's what I will do with that. And when I can reshoot that, if I have water, that's what I'll look for. Really nice idea. Just tremendous. Okay, boy, this is a tough one. What I like, what a tough, you know, this is very well seen. Very well seen. The foreground water, you got a nice three trees, basically 1, 2, 3 tree graphic, good diagonal line. You've got a human. I'd keep her in, sure, but you don't need all the foreground. I would probably do further crop up to about here. That way 1/3 of the picture is beneath the basic horizon and 2/3 above it works. Again, as I always do, we'll go into, we'll create a layer. And then we'll go to Filter. And then, don't tell me. Where is it? Camera raw filter. There it is. And again, just to make sure our highlights are good to go, pull our highlights back. A little more detail in there. There we go. And then bring the shadows up. See how that addresses this right here. Not a lot, just a little. Okay. And we'll just say okay. When you get a good capture, folks, you don't need a lot to process. If you want to do like plugins and the more exotic, quote unquote, artistic techniques, and that's something else altogether. But for basic processing, you got a little hotspot right here. See it? So I'll do a claw layer, and then I'll pick the what's it called again? Spot healing brush tool, and just. So see, the more that you look at an image, the more that you see. That white speck, if I got a print of this, that white speck would drive me crazy. That's why you want to look at things for a while and see what grabs your attention. So you can tone down any distracting elements. So if you make a print, ultimately, you won't be looking at a mistake. That's kind of the idea. Again, if you want to make a print, make a test print, and look at it for a while, hang it up in your office. See, this didn't work at all, did it? This did not work at all as I'm talking to you. Let me go back to history. I think that chunk of wood is okay in there, isn't it? Yeah, it's fine. I'll stop right there. I like this. But I still don't like this log. So we're going to make it a bit larger. We would go a lot larger in software, but why don't we say just very, very small moves. Okay, very small. So rather than doing the entire stick, we're working in small moves. Here we go. These tools work much better when you work incrementally. There, no one will see that. We have one more. See this black line right here? Yeah, these little things will drive you crazy on a print. Believe me. Sue and I hang up prints for a long time, test prints, before we commit to making investing our time in making a print. So that's pretty much good to go. So we'll just go ahead from there. I would probably, if I had time, I would clean up every single speck on this beach. Just clean it up completely. Get rid of all of them. If you're going to clean the beach, clean the beach. Does it look unnatural? I don't think so. It's up to you. It's your picture. Notice how I brought this, let's go back one. Notice how on this speck, I brought the tool into the rock rather than stopping at the edge. That's because if you crop into the subject, the software will see that as intentional and will try to rebuild that edge. Many of you experience that if you try to cut it right at the edge of something hard, there'll be kind of a smudge look. Yeah, the way you stop that is to clone into your subject. And then it'll rebuild the hard line. So very good idea on this shot, by the way. Oh yeah, this is a digital montage look. It's exactly how it should look. It's a little dark. I'm going to show you something with the. There's several software packages we could try. I'm going to create another layer here. I want to show you real quick a plugin that I kind of consider a camera raw on steroids kind of a thing. And that'll be here. Filter, and then it's a MacFun plugin. It's called Intensify Pro. All their software is very, very high end, which means that it's very good, very professional. So let's just try to bring our shadows up a notch. See it? Just a little. See that? It's a little more. It's a little better than in RAW, than ACR basically. Pull the highlights down. See it? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Shadows up, highlights down. at the overall. So we have room for a little more exposure. So let's just go up here and do this. There we go. Now we have more detail. A lot of the darks are opened up. See what I mean? Where's the eyeball? Before, after. I like a little more detail, maybe somewhere in between. Why don't we say apply? Because now we have this, and we have our original. A lot of times I'll over-process a layer of an effect, and then pull the effect back in opacity. So that's that. That's with nothing done. This is somewhere in between. I find that a lot of times, if you're around 2/3 of any effect, that'll be where you're going to want to be. That'll be the look that you're looking for. So before and after. So it didn't totally brighten it up a lot. It just brightened it up enough to create some layers of shadow here. So really nice idea on this for a montage. Really excellent. And we'll let that go. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So what I would tend to want to do is your eye kind of wanders everywhere. And I shoot a high megapixel camera for a reason. Aside from the file size and the sharpness, it's also a great crop factor. So the higher your crop factor is, which means the higher your megapixel in your camera is, the more you can crop and maintain the sharpness. So I would probably get this really tailored down to about here. We don't need our white sky back there, do we? A little bit, but not a whole lot. We can probably come up here and get just his sleeve, something like that, you know. And then we can say, okay. Now, a little white sky. But I want to show you something with kids, or with people in general. Now, you mentioned, somebody mentioned the hair thing. Yeah, that's an issue, especially over the eyeball. You would need to take your original. Oh, this is the original. Good. And we'll magnify that up. And then we'll just try to very easily grab the spot healing brush and see if we can't just very gently now, this is not my forte. People do this for a living. You know, I'm not one of them. Let's grab the clone tool, a little smaller, and pull the opacity way back. We're going to pull the opacity and the flow rate back. Gives you a much more subtle transition. So if I want to sample here, you see it comes in much slower. You see what I mean? Okay, that's my Photoshop's getting weird. So we'll grab, come on. Yep, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Anyway, my software is getting weird. I don't know why it does that, but you would need to go in at a it's going to be tough to get that eyeball. Man. Let's just try it and see. I don't know. All right, let's try here. I don't want to take all day on this for people that aren't really into this. But it's going to be tough getting that out of the eyeball, I got to tell you. Whew. You will need to hire somebody who really knows their stuff. Yeah, because if the eye's off by a hair, it'll look like weird. This is the best that I can do right now with a JPEG. You really can't get enough of the. Let's try this, although it can't work because your eyes are all different, you know. Well, it's kind of okay. So I'm cloning this eyeball into here. It's a really tough. Anyway, it appears to be getting somewhat acceptable. So let's just, I don't want to take all day on this here. But that's the idea. Okay, I think that's enough. I know we'll spend all day on this, but that's one way to get it. Okay, you saw what I was doing, and we're close enough. I will need to magnify this raw file or TIFF tremendously to get real tight on these lines and edges, but it is possible. You can clone this eye into that eye. All right, that's kind of the idea here. Let's try one more thing. What if I say something like this? Yeah, now it's getting kind of weird. Anyway, that's the basic idea. It's close. And then you would go in and fine tune the edges here. So that's how you would take care of that. It needs work, but that's how you get started. The other plugin that may work here is create a layer, and then we'll go into a filter, and then something called Perfectly Clear, which is made for skin tones. So let's just see what it does. There you go. You can see it. And if I click on the image, you'll see before and after. If you do people, it's good for landscapes. It's phenomenal for people photography. Perfectly Clear. There's discounts on my website for all this stuff, you know. And this also comes in on another layer. So you can also pick a preset, or you can adjust. I will do the opacity in layers. I wouldn't do it here. I'll do everything here 100%, and then adjust your opacity over here when you do this. And you just play around. A little brighter, and you just play around. So once you fix this eyeball, which is just clone this eyeball into this one and work at a high magnification, you should be fine. So we'll just say OK. And now here's our before, and here's our after. It's not bad. And again, we could fix this in another 10 to 15 minutes, but you can do that. Okay, this is not sharp. That's the same as this one? Yeah, this is sharp, and this is not. So I'm not sure what you wanted me to do here. If you want me to combine them, I don't know. But the one that I'm going to process is not this one, because this is an out of focus image, the result of quite possibly not having a tripod on this shot. So we'll just leave this go as a bad example, or a good example of bad technique, actually. And now we'll say this one. Now this is a great shot for camera roll. Again, we create a layer, and we drag this down into here, and here's our layer copy. And then we'll just say filter camera raw, right? Okay. And again, highlights down. See, it's still blown out. Doesn't say so here, but it kind of is. Again, you've got to watch your histogram when you create these pictures, because whatever's blown out or blocked up there will be tough to bring in. See, a little bit flat, but that's okay. We can add some contrast, give some punch to this, overall exposure just up a notch. And then we can use a grad, which I use a lot on these images, from down here. Now, we want to change that to actually be, see where we at here. Right, then we could say just exposure in the foreground. See it? And we'll move this. This does move. Bring the foreground up. What's everything look like? Why don't we do this? This whole thing works better. Then we can say, right about here is good. Have our reflection in here. We can say, we can okay that out. And we're probably good to go. Let's try one more thing here. Why don't we say, grab the radial tool and just drop it on the bridge right here. Let's drop it right here. And what I want to say is, why don't we clear all? Let's try it again. Oh, we did this. Darn it, sorry. Let me start again, my mistake. That reset everything. Come into about here, then make it a bit brighter. Or something like that. And we can say OK on this one. And then drop in a grad from the sky. One more from, now, without getting out of the grad, just the grad is still selected. You draw as many as you want. I'm going to draw one from the top. And I'm going to bring it down. Oops, sorry, delete. Bring it down. And then we're going to say this. So we're somewhere like this. And we'll say OK. The other thing is we can come in now at this point and we can do a claw, Command Option Shift E. Oops, sorry. Let's go back into our tools here. And we'll say this. All right, there's our new layer. Sorry, did two of them. There's our adjustment layer. Now we can actually come in here and just say, again, go into Camera Raw, create a layer. I use Camera Raw a lot, I really do. Filter and then Camera Raw. And I want to say darkness, bring the shadows up. That's what I wanted. Bring up light right in here. And now I think we're good to go. The blown out part over here is this. Hard to deal with. I will just leave it, and then you have the reflection and a leading line, and everything is good. And we'll say OK. And then we've gone from basically from here to here with a few little moves. So you can salvage. If I had time, I would select the entire bridge. I'll give you a quick overview. I'm going to grab the quick selection tools up here. See it? And it's got to be, you have to do it on a larger file. You can magnify it tremendously, you know. But I'll bring this back. And then I will try to select the bridge. Now when I do this, it's a really laborious process because you're selecting every piling separately, you know. And you don't want any anything in here. You want these all deselected, all of them. So we have the bridge only selected, basically. Okay. And then we can come up here. What I'm doing is I'm holding down the Option or Alt key, and then holding down Shift to reselect these areas. Now this is not going to be very well done, but it'll give you an idea of how to make things brighter. If I want the bridge to be a bit hotter, you know, a bit more, there you go. In here. Now you would need to go in and like select all. I'm not going to spend all time selecting. This takes a long time, but now we have our bridge selected for all intents and purposes. Okay. Okay, there's our basic selection. So now all that's left is to brighten the bridge. Our bridge is selected. Now what you want, if you intend on going back to a selection, you want to go into Select, Save Selection. And it's called a bridge. That way, if you want to go back several times, you can reselect the exact same selection. So in this case, we're going to say, okay, our bridge is selected. I want to do a level, Command L. And then see if we can bring it up a little bit. See how it brightens up? Now you're going to get all kind of haloing, but that's one way to select one thing and then and bring it up. But you do need to magnify things tremendously and work very small, like almost pixel view. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, it's all here, and you can let me know later. Drop me an email. Okay, we're still going here. Nice. Now this doesn't need a whole lot. Normally, you know, white vignettes are kind of a pet peeve of mine. They don't look that good that often, but this is an exception. The white vignette works perfectly on this image. Just really great job even thinking of that on something like this. It makes the tree, a small little cloud bank, stand out dramatically. The white edges work perfectly. Just a great job of thinking out of the box. And we're going to just move right past. I wouldn't change a thing on this. Just very, very strong composition. Good job. Okay, yeah, this is a little bit tough. Everything's like in any kind of a very quick rule of thumb here, not rule of thumb, but a quick rule to bear in mind is that you want to have pure black and pure white in a black and white image. And we have pure black but no pure white. And that's an issue. So let's see if we can do something with this here. Let's say, let's pause this for a second. Hang on, somebody's upstairs. I'll be back.